They laughed when he walked on stage, but had no idea he'd expose their golden boy in front of everyone. He felt it before he even stepped to the mic, the eyes, the whispers, the quiet laughter that wasn't quite quiet enough. 18-year-old Jordan Wright, dressed in his thrift store blazer and holding a binder with frayed edges, stood alone in a room that wasn't made for him. This was Yale's elite invitational debate. Marble floors, polished shoes, legacy names. He didn't belong. At least that's what they thought. One boy in the front row didn't even pretend to hide his smirk. Chase Wentworth, the undefeated favorite, Yale legacy, captain of everything. His voice cut through the murmurs. Door must have been left open again. Jordan heard it. Everyone did. But he didn't flinch. Because what none of them knew was that Jordan had fought to be their tooth and nail. Without tutors, without a team, without funding. Ranked first in Georgia, self-taught, trained by his mother at the kitchen table between her night classes and grading papers. This tournament wasn't just a competition. It was proof. Proof that everything he'd done, every sleepless night, every doubt he swallowed, every time someone told him not quite Ivy League material, had led to this stage. But even as the first round began and Jordan prepared to speak, he had no idea just how far Chase was willing to go to keep him silent. The first topic dropped like a challenge from the universe itself. Resolved elite institutions should minimize socioeconomic influence in admissions. The irony almost made Jordan laugh out loud. He could feel the shift in the room's students, shifting in their seats, some rolling their eyes, others whispering behind cupped hands. For them, it was just another prompt. For Jordan, it was his life. That night, while others ran mock debates and rehearsed with coaches, Jordan was in the library alone. No advisors, no tech team, just stacks of printed case studies, public data, and scribbled legal notes. He dug into legacy admission statistics, campaign donations, the gap between test scores and income, and what it felt like to watch friends with dreams get shut out by zip codes. When he walked into the next round, there was no smirk, no bravado, just the truth. His voice cracked once, not from nerves, but from conviction. He spoke about his neighborhood, about how gifted students were told to be realistic. He spoke about his cousin, who couldn't even apply to schools like Yale because the Wi-Fi at home was too slow to load the Common App. By the time he finished, the silence was thick. Some judges looked stunned. Others looked guilty. But no one was laughing. And while Jordan had just found his rhythm, Chase was already planning his sabotage. 2 days later, just before the quarterfinals, Jordan's phone buzzed. The subject line froze him. Urgent, your topic has been reassigned. The email looked official, complete with the tournament logo and a signature from the organizing board. Panic hit fast. The new topic was entirely different, something obscure about international policy Jordan hadn't prepped for at all. He didn't have time to question it. There were no coaches to confirm, no teammates to help. Just him. So he did what he always did. He adapted. He stayed up rewriting his entire case from scratch, pulling late-night articles, patching together citations, turning his old notes into something barely coherent. By morning, he looked like he hadn't slept in a week, but he still walked into that hall binder in hand, shoulders square. Then he looked up at the topic on the screen, and everything stopped. It hadn't changed. The topic was the original one. His eyes shot to Chase, and there it was, that same smirk from day one, now dipped in something darker. Jordan knew he'd been played. The fake email, the sudden reassignment, it was all a trap, a setup to break him, to humiliate him, to prove he didn't belong. He had seconds to choose, walk out, or improvise a case on a topic he hadn't reviewed in over 48 hours. He took one deep breath and stepped up to the podium. The moment his mouth opened, Jordan knew there was no turning back. He didn't have polished citations or rehearsed segues. What he had was anger and truth. And for the first time, he stopped trying to sound like everyone else in the room. He spoke from his gut. He abandoned the polished debate format and told stories. About watching school computers crash mid-application season. About counselors with 300 students each, too overwhelmed to help. About growing up in a neighborhood where potential was treated like a myth. The judges leaned in. The audience stopped fidgeting. Jordan's words didn't sound like a prep school product, they sounded like lived experience. He didn't speak about inequality. He was the evidence. The more he talked, the more the room turned. Not just in sympathy and shock, because Jordan was saying out loud what most people had spent years avoiding. And the moment he finished, there was no applause. Just silence. The kind that lands heavy, that demands reflection. The round ended. Jordan walked out with nothing but a nod from one of the senior judges. He didn't know if that meant respect or dismissal, but he did know this for the first time all day. Chase wasn't smirking. He was whispering. And from the look on his face, the plan was far from over. By the next morning, the leaderboard had shifted. Jordan's name sat near the top, tied for second. Whispers started swirling in hallways and coffee lines. Did you hear his speech? He's from where? Wait, he doesn't even have a coach? Some of the same kids who had laughed now kept their distance. Chase, however, didn't. He doubled down. In the cafeteria, he passed by Jordan's table and dropped a single word loud enough for everyone to hear: fluke. No one laughed. Not this time. But Chase wasn't banking on laughter. He was banking on pressure. As the semi-final pairings were announced, Jordan's heart stopped. He was up against Madeline Cho, last year's finalist and Chase's longtime teammate, sharp, precise, known for dismantling opponents with surgical logic. The topic: Resolve technology has strengthened democracy. Jordan prepped fast, focusing on digital disenfranchisement, biased algorithms, and online surveillance. But what he didn't expect was how personal the round would get. Midway through his argument, Madeline pivoted. She brought up Jordan's own speech from the last round and accused him of using emotional manipulation instead of structured argument. The judges raised their brows. A few pens stopped moving. For a second, Jordan froze. This wasn't just strategy. It was an attack on his voice, his story, his right to be heard. And what he said next flipped the room. Jordan didn't raise his voice. He didn't interrupt. He let the silence do the work. Then, calm and steady, he looked at the judges and said, "If telling the truth about how systems fail people like me is emotional manipulation, maybe the problem isn't how I speak. Maybe it's what you're used to hearing." The air shifted. One of the judges leaned back, hands steepled under his chin. Another scribbled something fast in the margins of her notes. Jordan pivoted hard, blending his rebuttal with real-world examples. How online voter registration systems crash disproportionately in low-income areas. How school districts with poor internet access saw lower turnout in digital learning votes. How even public comment forums were flooded by bots and silenced authentic voices. Every sentence hit. It wasn't just argument anymore. It was advocacy. By the end of the round, even Madeline looked uneasy. When results were posted hours later, Jordan had won. Narrowly, but clearly. Chase didn't even look at the bracket. He just stared, then turned, phone in hand, texting furiously. Jordan didn't know it yet, but Chase wasn't just trying to beat him in the final. He was digging for a way to erase him altogether. The final round felt more like a trial than a debate. Cameras were set up, alumni judges took their seats, and at the front of the room, Chase and Jordan. Opposites, in every way, in background, in training, in how they'd gotten here. The topic: Resolved traditional institutions are the best protectors of academic integrity. Jordan almost laughed. He didn't need research. He was living the contradiction. But he also knew Chase wouldn't slip up again, not in public. This would be clean, calculated, deadly, and it was. Chase opened with flawless rhetoric, smooth delivery, quotes from Ivy League deans, charts, even applause lines built to land. The crowd was with him at first. Then it was Jordan's turn. He walked slowly to the podium, holding the same beat-up binder from day one. "Before I respond to the resolution," he began, "I want to share something I received this week." He held up a printed copy of the fake email, the one that nearly derailed him. He didn't name Chase. Didn't have to. The room was silent. Judges leaned forward. "I was told my topic had changed. It hadn't. That message was a lie, but I showed up anyway. And that lie helped me see something clearer than any resolution ever could, that institutions don't always protect integrity. Sometimes they protect privilege. Chase's face went pale. For the first time all day, he looked small. And Jordan wasn't done. Jordan shifted his weight, looked straight at the judges, and continued, voice steady but charged. Academic integrity isn't just about citing your sources. It's about honesty, accountability, fairness. But when someone with connections bends the rules and no one holds them accountable, what are we really protecting? A murmur rippled through the audience. Chase tried to keep his expression neutral, but the tightness in his jaw betrayed him. Jordan pressed on. Some people walk into rooms like this knowing they'll be believed. Others walk in praying they'll be heard. He then pivoted masterfully, tying the resolution back to centuries of institutional bias, legacy admissions, and the quiet ways gatekeeping hides behind rules. His final words were direct. If institutions want to claim they protect integrity, they need to start by protecting the people with the least power, not just the ones born with it. When he stepped back, the silence was deafening. Not a cough, not a shuffle. The judges didn't move. Chase stood to deliver his rebuttal, but his rhythm was gone. His voice cracked. His points landed flat. And he knew it. The debate ended without fanfare. Just two boys walking off stage, one rattled, the other calm. But the real decision was still coming. And behind the scenes, so was the reckoning. The judges deliberated for nearly an hour, longer than any round that day. Students waited in hallways. Faculty whispered behind closed doors. Jordan sat alone on a bench, binder on his lap, heart pounding like a drum he couldn't silence. Across the room, Chase paced with his coach, jaw clenched, gesturing angrily. He wasn't used to this uncertainty, vulnerability, consequences. Then the doors opened. Everyone filed in. The tournament director stepped forward, envelope in hand. His voice was even official. This year's winner of the Yale Invitational Debate, a beat. Jordan Wright. The room exploded. Gasps, applause. One person clapped louder than anyone, Jordan's mom, standing in the back row, eyes full of tears. Jordan didn't smile. He just nodded, grounded, present. Chase didn't wait for a handshake. He stormed out, face like stone, followed by a staff member who tapped him on the shoulder and quietly asked him to stay. Because just before the announcement, an anonymous file had been submitted to the tournament board, evidence tracing the fake email directly to Chase's student account. It wasn't just a violation of rules. It was a violation of ethics, and Yale had no choice but to act. That night, one competitor went home with a trophy. The other went home under investigation. The official statement came quietly a week later. No headlines, no public drama. Just a discreet notice sent to debate circuits and participating schools. Chase Wentworth was suspended indefinitely from all future competitions, pending a formal ethics review. The email prank had been traced, verified, and confirmed. He had tried to rig the system, and the system pushed back. But Jordan didn't celebrate. He didn't post online. He didn't gloat. Instead, he received a personal letter from the tournament director, hand-signed. Heavy words. You didn't just argue against the system. You revealed it. Enclosed was an invitation to Yale's prestigious Summer Policy Institute. Full scholarship, all expenses covered. For a boy who'd written his first debate speech at the kitchen table beside an overworked mother, this was more than a win. It was a door, and this time, no one could claim it was left open by accident. He walked through it with quiet pride, leaving behind the whispers, the smirks, the doubt. Not erasing them, owning them. Because now, every time someone said he didn't belong, he had proof that he did. Not just in that hall, not just at that school, but in any room where truth needed defending. And he'd never have to fake his way in. If that ending gave you chills, share this, because too many doors stay closed unless someone like Jordan kicks them open.